We're not going to have, for example, the text-to-speech app or the text-to-speech for any super chats. So very sorry about that, but I will try to remember them and maybe record them later. I am currently in London, Ontario, beautiful London, Ontario, where I got to visit the London Masonic Center, London Masonic Temple, according to Facebook, but London Masonic Center, which was absolutely incredible and wonderful to attend. So, I want to share that background screen. And we're going to give it a few minutes. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I realized I shouldn't call it London Masonic Temple. I should call it London Masonic Center. Let me just change that at some point in the on my socials. But for the time being, we're going to wait to see who joins. I was reading today on CNN, gas prices are going up. That is going to affect Freemasonry. Again, I've been talking about Masons struggling to make it to Masonic Lodge meetings because the cost of gas is going up, and that's no different. I think it reached a record high of 4 years. You cannot separate Freemasonry from the economic, social, or political conditions of the communities in which it's located, and that includes economic conditions, that includes the price of gas, that includes how expensive it is to get to a Masonic meeting. Um, Thank you, Gooey. I was feeling it last night, that's for sure. I was definitely feeling it last night, so. How are you doing? And no specific topics for today. We're just going to hang out and chat. Any thoughts you guys have you want to share on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, let me know. Um, but thank you, Gooey, for that. I hope that you're doing well. Thank you for all of the super chats I've got the last couple of days as well. I really appreciate it very much. Let's see if we can go with 10 gifts. Oops. I also am going to be sharing some YouTube shorts uh, tonight regarding my travels. I'm here because tomorrow I have a series of medical appointments, the purpose of which is to check on my eligibility to donate my kidney. And so a big part of that is you have to go through a bunch of testing, both in Windsor and now in London. And so, yeah, I'm going to be streaming about that, talking about it, posting about that. So be prepared for that as well. In the meantime, though, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins. Normally, I have my laptop with me. Today, I don't. So it's mostly just us hanging out and chatting. Waiting to see who finds me. Or actually, I wonder if I can sit at my laptop. I bet you there's a way to do it. I'm not the best when it comes to technology, but let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can find. If there is a way to do this. How do you set up or create a hotspot? That is the question. And let's give it some time. Let's wait to see who joins. Please jump in the chat, say hello. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Hello, Tebigo Massina. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment and hit like and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are on Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. I am doing well, Tebogo. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. Um, I hope that your day is going well. I'm trying to remember how to set up a hotspot so I can check something on my computer. Tebogo, do you have any questions about Freemasonry? No, Dad, no special diet to follow. Um, Thank you for your gift. I appreciate that. Although I am getting paid tomorrow, so I should be all set to order my tickets. But nonetheless, I do appreciate you sending that to me. My plan is maybe to come home for the Grand Lodge annual communication. I don't know for sure yet, but that's my plan at the moment. Once I have my tickets, I'll let you know for sure. Hello, Shrey. Thank you, Tebago. I appreciate you subbing. If you do have any questions about Freemasonry, please let me know. Also, if you know how to set up a mobile hotspot, let me know that as well, because I have no idea how to do that. And I hope that everybody watching this is having a good day. Oops, jeez. West Side, no idea what you're talking about. I think we all have negative views of him, as I think we should. Okay, I think we're still good. All right. It looks like it's going to rain, Shrey. You're absolutely correct. It's 7 p.m. in your country. Okay. It is 1 p.m. here. Which country are you from, Tobago, if you don't mind my asking? And do you have any Freemasonry in your country of which you're aware? We are watching closely. Goodbye. Good for you. South Africa. I've actually done a few interviews with Masons from South Africa, Tobago. So there is a really cool history of Freemasonry in South Africa. Because South Africa has so many port towns, like, if I recall correctly, Cape Town or Johannesburg are port towns. Freemasonry made an impact there relatively early on, because Freemasonry, as it made its way through different port towns, it as Freemasonry spread from England to the rest of the world, it would stop at and set up basically lodges or camps at various ports of the ships on which it was traveling. That's why you see Freemasonry in Paris, Hong Kong, Macau, Boston, and also the port towns in South Africa. I don't disagree with you, Shrey. I think people who don't attend lodge regularly, there should be a process to remove them. That's just me. Did Freemasonry play a role in fighting against apartheid? I mean, I would have to look into that more closely. Certainly in North America, Freemasonry played a role in fighting for civil rights. In fact, Martin Luther King's headquarters was located in a Prince Hall Masonic Lodge building, which is a really cool note, and something people don't realize. I don't know about the history of Freemasonry and the apartheid in South Africa. Doctor, it just depends. I don't know. It depends how busy they are and what they have happening. Give them at least a couple weeks to maybe a month, and then if you don't hear anything, you can try contacting them again. Hungry Ghost? Well, there's two ways to answer that question. Why am I a Mason, and why am I active within Freemasonry? And both of those are very different questions, right? I became a Mason because my dad was a Mason, my grandfather was a Freemason. So I always assumed sooner or later I would join um, the lodge. The better question is why I remained active in Freemasonry. And that's one of those questions where, honestly, at the end of the day, I use the example of music that I love, right? If you love a certain song, can you really describe it and explain why you love it? At a certain point, it just speaks to you. And it just speaks to you in a way that it doesn't speak to anybody else. And that has kind of always been my experience with Freemasonry. It just speaks to me in a way that maybe other people it doesn't. There's something about it that I love. Even when I hate it, I still love it. No, and it's not a single interview, Dr. Isaac. It's takes a little bit of time. So just be prepared because it's not an interview, it's them getting to know you and you getting to know them. It's as much about you learning about the lodge as the lodge learning about you. So just give it time, don't rush it. I guess, Shrey, I don't know if that's necessarily a controversial opinion. I just don't know what that means. When you say Freemasons need to get more political, what do you mean by that? Because I might agree with you, I might disagree with you. I just don't know precisely what you mean by that. Obviously, Freemasonry is not a political institution, and we have members of all different backgrounds, religions, beliefs, all of whom are part of our Masonic lodges. So when you say you need to get more political, what do you mean by that precisely? Well, you just started the process, so if you're anxious about it now, I can only imagine what it'll be like for you later. Um, just there's nothing to be anxious about, Dr. Isaac. It's maybe you'll be accepted, maybe you won't be. Not the end of the world either way, right? It's just enjoy the process. It's really the best advice I can give you for life, actually. This is my handle. I don't know what you mean by that. I see with the sight of a hawk, move with the grace of a deer. I see with the sight of a goldfish. I move with the grace of a sloth. Um, and I have the ferocity of a kitten. So you and I are quite the opposite. But what makes you anxious, Drizak, or Dr. Isaac? I can't Drizak, Dr. Isaac, about potentially joining Freemasonry? Hello, Mr. Ellison. Thank you for being here. So, Shrey, again, what do you mean by Freemasons need to get more political? I certainly think Freemasons need to pay more attention to the political situation in our countries. For example, I just read a report here that I lost it. I had it a second ago. That Asian airlines are going to start charging a $350 American fuel surcharge tax on flights. If you're traveling for Freemasonry, that's an extra $350, I think both ways, to make it to Masonic meetings outside your country. That's a political question. It's a question of economics, taxes, consumer sentiment, and the war in Iran. And Freemasons need to pay attention to that, but that's not the same thing as necessarily advocating for political positions. I sometimes waste my life fighting against conspiracies, but I don't think I waste my life in Freemasonry, if that's what you're saying. Donald Trump is not a Freemason. At least I've seen no evidence that he is. So that's one of those things where a lot of people think he is. I'm not sure where that comes from or what that conspiracy theory is, but he is not. I think I've done many productive things, including Square and Compass Promotions, helping people find Freemasonry and be part of Freemasonry. What if instead of Freemasonry, you happen to get into communism instead? I mean, in theory, you could be into both, or you could be into Freemasonry and capitalism, or you could be into Freemasonry and I mean, communism is an economic system or political system. Freemasonry is a civic institution. Interesting enough, though, many countries that were communist did not have Freemasonry or allow for Freemasonry. One of the exceptions was Cuba, and a side note. But for example, after the Russian Revolution of 1919, if I'm getting that date correctly, Freemasonry was banned in Russia and in the Soviet Union until 1995. So that's an interesting side note. How to be part of Freemason? Well, the first question is to be one, or the first thing is to ask one, which you've done. The second thing, approach the Masonic Lodge and express your interest in joining. So if you wanted to be a Freemason, or even if you don't necessarily know if you want to be a Freemason, but you're curious about Freemasonry, the best thing you can do is approach the lodge and express your interest in joining. So that's all you got to do. There's a process after that. You get to know the guys, they get to know you. But the first step is approach the lodge and express your interest in joining. So I'm not sure where you're from, Superman, but there should be Masonic lodges in your area. I would not join any gang because I would not want to go to prison. So let's hope that never happens. Depends on the politics. I'd rather be in a car. Well, I mean, a lot of people are afraid of flying, even though statistically, I think even with the recent headlines, it is still the safest way to travel. But even for a car, gas prices go up. That affects how much it costs for you to travel to a Masonic meeting. That affects how much it costs for you to travel to a Masonic event. And as a consequence of that, it's absolutely the case that we need to pay attention to gas prices because it's going to affect our ability to take part in and be a Freemason. Well, Shrey, I think the better approach is to just hope you never end up in jail in the first place. How about that? Let's do our best to stay out of jail. So, Aussie John, it can be said that stone masonry began in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago. Freemasonry or speculative masonry, I think you need to be a little bit more cautious in your dating, and I think, or humble in our dating. I think the safest and earliest date we can go is 1634. Some will say 1601, but I think 1634 is the better date. Or even 1717, the formation of the Grand Lodge of England. But stonemasonry, I mean, without question, stonemasonry dates back to ancient Egypt and even perhaps before ancient Egypt. Aussie John S., please hit like and subscribe. Anthony, thank you for the super chat. That's incredibly kind of you. Every lodge should be LGBTQ friendly, so I'd be happy about that as well. That is true. This is my handle. During the Holocaust, Freemasons were targeted. So I think credit to them, without a doubt, for being able to survive that incredibly challenging time. I don't know what that means, Mr. Fox. Like, to join, there is no age maximum. I've known Masons joining in their 70s, but there's a minimum. You need to be at least 21 years of age in Ontario or at least 18 years of age in Michigan, for example. Beyond that, though, many Masons join at all different ages and backgrounds. So, yeah, there's no age limit. Many people would consider Freemasonry to be an old man's game or an older man's game. I mean, I'm glad you're subbing, Superman, but I think you can handle this. I don't know. What do you mean by dating, Mr. Fox? Freemasonry has nothing to do. We're not a dating organization. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I think whatever you've read is incorrect. Freemasonry has nothing to do with who you date. Freemasonry is a civic institution. So whatever you're reading is weird and incorrect. And a bunch of baloney. I must have. Harry, clearly it's my fault. Monday I'm in the UAE. Tuesday, a year later, it leaves OPEC. I don't think there's any question gas prices are going to go through the roof, though. All right, Mr. Fox, you have no idea what you're talking about. You are weird. So, Ozzy John, I mean, it's cool that you read about Freemasonry. But the idea that it dates back to, I mean, certainly our traditions and our history, so our traditions and our symbolism can be said to date back to ancient Egypt, but that doesn't mean that we date back to ancient Egypt, right? It's just we borrow the symbolism from it after the fact. None, Eric. There are no Masons in the Epstein files. I did the search actually. I went through them to see. Are you a subscriber? That's the better question. Here's one of my dues cards. That's for Harmony Lodge. And this one's kind of beat up. I got to get a nicer one. I think one of the things our Masonic lodges need to do a better job at is getting better dues cards, like better plastic, so they because it's so easy for them to break if you're not careful. Um, I did pointing towards Mecca. I loved that arrow. Looking up at the ceiling and seeing an arrow pointing east, that was really, really cool. That was one of the coolest moments because it's like, oh, I'm not in, for lack of a better term, I'm not in Kansas anymore. That's awesome. I would love to visit Egypt, Ozzy St. John. I think it'd be incredible. All right, Mr. Fox. Well, I mean, I'm very sorry that a ton of them were rude old men. We should remember that as Freemasons, we represent the craft and we represent the lodge. So if we are being rude to people, it's going to reflect negatively upon Freemasonry as a whole. So, um, Shrey, it is unfortunate. I've been seeing a lot of Nazis on my channel, or at least a lot of anti-Semitism, which is really unfortunate. I hope that it would go away after World War II also. I mean, unfortunately, though, there's always going to be hatred in people's hearts, and sometimes that hatred um, manifests itself in different ways. And sometimes it manifests itself as Nazism. Sometimes it manifests itself as anti-Semitism. Sometimes it manifests itself as a combination of all three, or all two. Sometimes it manifests itself as anti-Masonry. So Life Strange, the Rainbow is actually a youth group for young women ages, if I recall correctly, and I might be getting this date wrong, 9 to 21. Actually, excuse me, 11 to 21. So it's a Masonic youth group for young women. There is Order of Women Freemasons and Eastern Star, which is for adult women within Freemasonry. But yeah, Rainbow is an excellent order. It's a wonderful part of Freemasonry, and um, it's a wonderful part of Freemasonry, and it's a wonderful part of our order. In fact, both youth groups, Rainbow for young women and Demolay for young men, are excellent parts of Freemasonry. I think one mistake we've made in the past within Freemasonry is we haven't focused enough on our youth groups and how valuable they are and how important they are to our order. Thank you, Azorian, for the super chat. Keep in mind, no text-to-speech super chats today, just because I don't have my laptop that I can use with me. I'm traveling. I'm in London for some medical appointments. Maybe giving up a kidney shortly, so we shall see. Um, I have to do my medical appointments tomorrow. So tomorrow there's not going to be any live stream at 1 p.m. However, I am going to be posting pictures and content throughout the day on my personal channel and on this channel. So pay attention for that. Yeah, Eastern Star is great. Unfortunately, maybe some of them were just having a bad day, or maybe it was just, law of averages. At a certain point, you meet enough people in a day, a percentage of them are going to be rude. So it's unfortunate, but that does happen. Thank you. This is my handle. I appreciate that very much. I do this for a living, JC. At least I try to do this for a living. So I hope you'll take a moment to please hit like, please hit subscribe, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. I'm not an engineer. I'm a Freemason, but that's not a profession. I'm doing my best to make it a profession. I'm not succeeding at the moment. Well, actually, I'm succeeding. And if you guys help me with super chats, I'll succeed even more. So, or even hitting subscribe. I was a probation officer. I was a probation officer for 5 years, and I worked in a jail for 5 years. A Freemason? A Freemason is a member of a Masonic lodge, which is a civic and fraternal club that has existed for over 300 years. Honestly, being a probation officer and then working in a jail, it had its good days, it had its bad days. But like everything else, when you're in it and you're in the moment, it's a bad day. But over time, you find it to be a good day. Any life advice for students? Courtney, if you're busy, you're busy. I appreciate being here for a couple of moments. Don't forget, if you do become a Patreon, because I know you said you were looking at doing that, I'll send you some more stuff. Anybody who becomes a Patreon at any level, you'll get sent some special items. Any life advice for students? I mean, just do your best. Honestly, I don't know if I have any good advice. Like, if you care about something, if you're passionate about something, then it's okay to pursue it. Don't expect it to be easy, right? It's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge, but just do your best. And that's really all you can do. I know that's not the best advice ever. Sorry, I couldn't give you any better advice. I think a lot of times we've become so obsessed with this idea that there's one right way to do things or one right way to be. We forget about the fact that nobody knows what they're doing, right? You just have to figure it out as you go. That's kind of all you can do. Was I a bright student? I was an average student, I think. Always did well in any courses that involved communication or speaking. Hence, I'm doing this right now. I always struggled in things like math or science. Kane, hello, Kalis, Gaming and Music World. Thank you for that. I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll hit like and subscribe. You're going to call me Kane. You could at least, subscribe to the channel, lest I choke slam you. Thank you for the super chats as well. I truly appreciate that. Have I ever played Life is Strange? I haven't, but Life is Strange, believe me. I don't have Masons tonight, Springs. I'm actually traveling. I'm currently in London. I have medical appointments tomorrow, testing out kidney donations, so. I like playing table tennis, but I have to leave it for studies. I mean, MK, you have to do what you think is best. You should always listen to your parents, but if table tennis is calling your heart, I mean, it might be a tough slog. You might have to move away from home. Who knows? But pursue your dreams. You'll get one shot at this life. Take advantage of it. Jay Neezy, the God, thank you for that. If you want to help me with some luck, hit like, hit subscribe, and let me know any thoughts you have on Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. I'm not really a gamer, but I do enjoy Assassin's Creed Part 3, and I do enjoy very much, aside from Assassin's Creed Part 3, I do enjoy very much Dead Space, all the Dead Spaces. Azorian, I'm sorry if you messed up. We all mess up. I've messed up dozens of times. I'm going to mess up dozens more times. It's not the mess up that matters, it's the recovery. How do you feel about Brock Lesnar retiring? I don't know if he retired for sure or not. I don't know if it's ever been made official. I will say, though, he's one of the greats. Never played God of War. Like I said, my game playing is relatively limited, but I do really enjoy playing. Assassin's Creed Part 3 because of all the Masonic connections it has. It has a ton of really cool Masonic connections in it that I really love. I I would like to play Black Flag and Valhalla, though obviously my favorite game to play starts and ends with Assassin's Creed Part 3 again because of the connection it has to Freemasonry. Are there any Masons in GTA 6? I don't have a PS5. I have a PS3, so I don't think we get platinum games in PS3s. Age of Empires. I would probably enjoy playing Age of Empires because of any examples of stonemasonry. I used to play tons of video games, then I turned 16 and hit puberty. After that, I mean, there are many. I mean, I still enjoy video games somewhat, and I'm 42. 16's a long ways away. I miss being younger, that's for sure. But I think interests change over time. That's human nature, right? Um, but human nature is such that I think interests, some people play video games in their 50s and 60s and 70s, some when they're kids, some never get into video games. I think if you find the thing you're passionate about, though, your goal should be to find that thing and then pursue it. Even if it's video games, Freemasonry, table tennis, whatever it might be, your goal should be to pursue it as much as you can, I think. Um, so life is strange, Hungry Ghost. So what's your favorite video game, Hungry Ghost? What do you love to play most of all? If you could do both, I mean, some Masonic lodges, in fairness, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a Masonic lodge with a table tennis, with a table for table tennis. I've seen plenty of lodges that have pool tables. I think I saw a lodge once that had a foosball table, but I don't think I've ever seen a Masonic lodge that has table tennis. That'd be really cool, though, to be honest. That'd be really fun to get a ping pong table into the lodge. That'd be really fun. I'm also interested in AC series, but some of it had online trophies, some are tedious. If you play the AC Valhalla, good luck to you, and good luck to you as well. I mean, I remember when I was a kid playing Resident Evil and liking that very much. Got some things to attend. Thank you. This is my handle. As always, thank you for being here. I hope you'll check out and consider joining or super chat, hitting like, hitting subscribe, whatever it is that you can do to support this channel, share the stream. You're absolutely correct, Trey. All Masonic, well, not the lodges. See, the lodges are the people, not the place. But all Masonic buildings should be disability friendly. And that includes all different types of disabilities, right? Obviously, that means ramps, without a question. Obviously, though, that also means automatic doors, but that should also mean adequate lighting. So people who cannot see well, have adequate lighting to be able to see. That means braille signage, so people who can't see can still feel the signs and know where they're going. That means maybe microphones and speakers, so people who are hard of hearing are able to take part in meetings. That means a million different things, right? All of which we kind of need to focus on. So. But I think one of the biggest mistakes we make very often is when we think about disability friendly, we think about specific types of disability, primarily mobility impairments, which are really important, but they're one type of disability friendly. Again, are our buildings well lit so people who are hard of seeing are able to actually see? And if they're completely blind, do we have braille signage? Do we have what are the different things that we have in our buildings to make them successful? Elevators. Do the elevators have braille on the inside of them? Are our doorways and entrances being properly maintained? in winter, snow and ice being removed so they're not slippery or so they don't present slip and fall hazards? And also, are we looking at the proper accessibility of the area as a whole? So, for example, do we maintain contact with our city to make sure that um, amongst other things, to make sure that our um, um, street lights are properly working, our sidewalks are properly maintained, all the things that are part of the city necessarily to do. Because if we have the perfectly accessible, well-maintained building, but the sidewalk in front of the building is not being well maintained, that presents a tripping or a falling hazard for somebody with a disability. So the point is, our buildings need to be accessible in a variety of ways for a variety of abilities or for a variety of disabilities. There's no Latin words on this building, London Masonic Center. Um, Mics for people who have trouble hearing, absolutely. The Windsor Masonic Temple, to its credit, has some microphones all across and all around the building, which I think really helps in lodge meetings. Um, there's a Helen Keller school behind my building, and so they straightened out my whole neighborhood. It's unfortunate that it didn't, Trey. They should work on making the whole community better, not just their building. Um, Veritas means truth. Does it say Veritas on there? Veritas means truth in Latin. So I did graduate law school, but that doesn't mean I'm smart or know anything. I got by on my charm and good looks. And thank you, everybody, once again for the super chats. That is truly, truly appreciated. As always, I hope everybody's doing very, very well. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. I never really practiced law, but I did article, and it was primarily social benefits, landlord, tenant, things of that nature. This is just water, I assure you, but I am trying to drink more water. So civil, primarily, right? Civil law, which did give me some interesting insights into Freemasonry, although I did end up being involved more regularly with criminal law, primarily as it related to working as a probation officer and then working in a jail. So I did both of those for about 5 years each. It was a lot of work, but I was grateful for it also. I never saw anything that crazy, Shrey. I mean, I think people have a very kind of certain view of jail from television shows like Oz or whatever it is. I will say I was a rehab officer. So I worked with people when they were getting released, trying to get them housing, trying to get them into educational programs, trying to get them into work programs. It's not as though I was a correctional officer who had to spend, entire shifts with inmates. They would tend to see a lot more fights and violence and people being foolish. I was saw much less of that. I still dealt with, obviously the clients, the inmates, pick your term every day, but in different ways. Um, well, you're not representing the criminal, Life is Strange, for the record. You're representing the system, right? You're not saying whether your client is guilty or not guilty. Rather, you're saying that it's up to the system to prove the guilt, and you're calling BS if the Crown doesn't do their job properly. Um, so I mean, everybody deserves representation. That's true. It's more, but don't think about it like you're representing the criminal. Think about it like you're representing the system. And you're actually not representing the person, but you're representing the system and ensuring the system does its job and does not offer punishments to individuals unless the Crown has done an adequate job of proving its case. That's the best way to look at it. I don't know if I still got it or not, but I do enjoy doing this. Where are you at, Cobra Tate? Well, I'm in London, Ontario. I was just at the beautiful London Masonic Center. You can see it there behind me. Um, it's an absolutely gorgeous building, one of, in my opinion, one of my favorite Masonic buildings in the world. So I really loved being there. I thought it was awesome. No, you cannot. Life is strange, but you can come visit Canada, and I'll take you on a tour of my Masonic building in Windsor, Ontario, if you want that. That could be really fun. Well, if they were on probation, they would have already either been in jail or not had jail at all. Parole is when you let an inmate out early, potentially, or for work release programs, whatever it might be. I've actually, Cobra Tate, I have two two Instagram accounts, both of which are showing, one of which shows off Masonic building interiors, and one of which shows off Masonic building exteriors. If you follow me on Instagram at square underscore and underscore compass underscore promotions, I will send you a link to those Instagram accounts, especially the one that shows the interior of our buildings, because I have done many videos about the interior of our Masonic buildings. I don't know what the mindset and worldview of the 33rd degree Freemason is. I mean, there is no single mindset or a single worldview of a 33rd degree Freemason, right? They will all have different worldviews. Freemasonry is not a worldview. There are ethical philosophies that are associated with Freemasonry, but it itself is not a worldview. Oh, it's way overhyped, Shrey. It is way overhyped. It is insane. Um, how overhyped the 33rd degree is. Don't get me wrong. I mean, to be a 33rd degree Mason is obviously a great honor. And I think 33rd should be incredibly proud of everything that they do, but it is not the highest degree in Freemasonry. It's not the most important degree in Freemasonry. It is simply one more degree. It's simply one, it's a very small part of this very big thing called Freemasonry. And this idea that the 33rds have some type of power or influence or control over Freemasonry is nonsense. It does make for a good story. I think that's why people overhype it, because they like the story that it provides, which is unfortunate that people, feel the need to think that way. Um, and a great goalie, Patrick Roy. I remember Patrick Roy as a great goalie. So, where was this video that you saw, the mindset and worldview of a 33rd degree Freemason? I never heard of that before. Harry, Dad, is absolutely correct. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the third degree. That is the highest degree in Freemasonry, not the 33rd degree. CCR, I love CCR. No, it is pretty much just a club more than anything else. That's a very good way to think about it. It's just a club, or it's a club that has a lot of traditions and has done a lot of good for the world. But at its core, it is a club. So yeah. So two Freemasons need to vouch for you to become a member, but to start the process, you don't need to be vouched for. To start the process, you simply need to knock on the door of a Masonic Lodge and express your interest in joining, right? That's all you need to do at the start. Um, and then you go from there, right? A lot of people kind of mistake that because we have the sponsorship requirement to be a member. What people assume that means is you can't even approach the lodge and express your interest in joining until the Masons vouch for you. And it's the opposite. You need to take the first step. You need to approach the lodge. You need to express your interest in joining. And then they will look at finding you sponsors at that point during your application phase. But the initial contact has to be from you. You don't need to have anybody vouch for you. No, Freemasons cannot make you a king. You're on your own. Well, because you're joining a group or a club, sponsorship is a way it's a basic way to vouch for the person. It's a way to say, I, Cameron, and my brother, John, we know this person. We think he's a good dude and we think he'll do well within the craft. It's just a way for the lodge to feel comfortable letting somebody in. Many groups have a similar requirement of vouching for somebody. Unfortunately, there was a time historically when Freemasonry so often you show up on a Monday and ask for an application, and by Tuesday you get the application. And you get two sponsors who don't even know you, who just say they know you for the purpose of, or they'll talk to you for 5 minutes, that'll be good enough. You need to take your time with it, and people need to know and learn about you and get to know you. When you're sponsoring somebody to be a member, that's a big deal. So you should really care about that. And not immediately sponsor somebody just to get another body through the door. That's pretty funny. Life is strange. I'll give that a 6 out of 10. Hiromoto, do you think, abortion is a political question or a religious question? It's not a question for Freemasonry. My dad did not sponsor me, Shrey, because my dad is a Mason out of Winnipeg. And I joined Masonry in Windsor in a different lodge. You have to be part of the same lodge to join to sponsor somebody. So some people have asked me even on this stream, hey, can you sponsor me if I join Freemasonry? And unfortunately, unless they're joining a lodge of which I'm a member, I cannot. So people who have criminal records may be allowed to join or may not be allowed to join. It depends on a lot of factors. The rules of the particular jurisdiction, as well as the nature of the criminal offense, as well as it's a variety of things. So it's one of those situations where what I always tell people is, if you have a criminal record, don't assume that automatically disqualifies you. You may be asked about it. You may have to pass. You may be, have a criminal record check, but don't assume that based on that you will be automatically denied. Right? It is still completely the case that you may end up having a criminal record and being able to join Freemasonry. It depends on the nature of the crime and also the things that you've done since you got the criminal record to turn your life around. Like, what have you done to make things better? Did you serve a jail sentence? Did you volunteer in the community? Did you go to counseling? And maybe even talk to them about how you think Freemasonry will help you in your efforts, right? LD Kenobi, Juan Kenobi, thank you for blessings. Please hit like and subscribe. You don't even have to be in jail to get a criminal record. You can end up with probation, or sometimes you end up in jail for a night, but then charges are dropped. Being in jail doesn't automatically indicate a criminal record. But even that is something you can talk to your brethren about, right? Or your application about. So if you are joining a Masonic lodge and they ask you about past run-ins with the law, you can explain, yeah, I joined, I spent a night in jail. Here's what happened. Here's why it's never happened again. But there are many people who spent nights in jail who did not have criminal records. Probation. So it's not a probation. Probation is a type of punishment that is given by courts in Canada and United States, and I think around the world. So if you commit a crime, and you're found guilty, if you're found guilty of a crime, but the judge does not want to sentence you to any time in jail, what the judge may do is sentence you to probation. And what that means is you need to meet with the probation officer at intervals as decided by the probation officer. You need to, not only do you need to meet with the probation officer, but you need to maybe complete some counseling. You need to have regular check-ins. Some jurisdictions you get drug tested, whatever it might be. Basically, you're given a set of conditions uh, to which or with which you need to comply for a length of time. Um, I mean, I would suspect even in Asia, because Shrey, Asia is a pretty big country, like, or excuse me, Asia is a pretty big continent. Like, there's a lot of different countries in Asia. I'm sure they have different rules. I think Japan has probation, for example. Um, I mean, Kabbalah is very deep. Many different kind of religious, esoteric, spiritual conditions are very deep and very relevant to people's lives. Freemasonry is very deep as well, although Freemasonry is not Kabbalah. They're different, right? It's important to keep that in mind, um, and remember that they're not the same thing. Um, so that's an important thing to remember. Mr. Peanuts says Jesus loves you. Mr. Peanuts, many Freemasons would agree with you. Freemasonry is not a religion, but there are many Christian Freemasons. Why is that your pet peeve? I've described myself as that sometimes, saying I'm not religious, I'm just spiritual. Don't know what the, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Lipoth is? Not sure what that is, Hungry Ghost. What's a 814 or 820 code? They said it's not a criminal record. I'm not sure what 814 or 820 is. I mean, I'm not sure where you're from. Are you from Ontario? Because different countries and different provinces have different codes. Isn't 820 in Canada driving while intoxicated? I think. I could be mistaken. I haven't worked in criminal justice for almost 5 years. I stopped just before the pandemic hit. Um, there's no such thing as an atheist. I think there is such a thing as an atheist, but I also think, and this applies to Freemasonry, generally speaking, most people who call themselves atheists probably believe in a supreme being, at least for the purposes of, or for the extent of Freemasonry. Freemasonry requires you to believe in a supreme being, not a particular religious belief. And many people will say they're an atheist, but what they mean by that is they don't ascribe to any religious faith, but they do believe in something greater than themselves or bigger than themselves. So, what's my view on Zionism? That's quite the question. Keep in mind, Zionism is a political question, not a Masonic question. There are some Zionist Freemasons, there are some anti-Zionist Freemasons. I would say for me, my personal opinion on it is I think technically I'm a Zionist in that I'm a two-stater. So I believe that there should be a Israeli and a Palestinian state. I'm actually a member of a Masonic lodge in Israel, Lodge Holy Land number 50 out of the Grand Lodge of Israel. I'm sure there are. I never really talked to them about it, right? We're not allowed to discuss politics or religion in a lodge. So I personally, this is me. In the lodge, no one discusses it. Just like in the lodge, no one will discuss whether they support Trump or don't. But I don't support him. I can say that. I'm not a fan. And as gas prices continue to go up, I think less people are going to support him, to be honest. And it's going to affect Freemasonry in a lot of different ways. It's getting more and more expensive to make your way to Masonic meetings, unfortunately. It's good to not drink, and I mean, if some people can drink, and that's fine, but not drinking, I don't drink either. And you should never drive while high or drunk or both or intoxicated in any way, obviously. So it's interesting, Shrey, because I've always been relatively hesitant to talk about Freemasonry in, I know I do describe it as self-improvement. I've always viewed it first and foremost as community improvement, not self-improvement, if that makes any sense. But I definitely think there is a decent argument to be made for Freemasonry as self-improvement in a lot of ethical, practical ways. I think ethical and practical ways, right? It helps people improve in memorization skills, meeting organizational skills. It gives people better ideas about things like charity, kindness, dedication. Um, it puts you in a privileged position to help others. But I think I've always viewed Freemasonry, while it can provide avenues for self-improvement, I think a better way to consider it is it puts you in a privileged position to help the community and help the world around you. And that's something for which I'm very grateful. Gay people can join Freemasonry. I've known many gay people well, I say many, I've known gay Freemasons. Should not make any difference. I mean, I don't think we should necessarily just lock up anyone, even the crazies, willy-nilly. But I do think there are people who may be reaching a point where they mentally cannot care for themselves. And if that's the case, they may need to have, for lack of a better term, be involuntarily committed somewhere, at least until they are brought to a state where they can care for themselves. But the dangers of that to the individual are fairly obvious. At what point does it become a dumping ground, right? Technically there's this person, they can probably care for themselves with work and effort, but they're homeless and they're kind of a pain, and we don't like looking at them as they, sleep on the street. So let's just lock them up somewhere for a while and we don't have to look at them anymore. And at what point does that become, we don't have to look at them, we don't have to think about them, we don't have to think about them, we don't care how they're treated, and that makes them much more at risk for abuse and vulnerable to the vicissitudes of a very often uncaring system, which is why I think it's better for groups like Freemasonry to exist and to kind of push people away from being on the streets and away from, for lack of a better term, becoming one of the nuisances or crazies you see, by providing them with benevolence to keep them housed, by providing them with emotional support. There's a reason I think every Freemason should have psychological first aid. Um, I can understand that feeling. That's happened at the Masonic Temple where people have broken into cars, so I get it. It does cost a lot to incarcerate someone too, but then because the cost goes up, people don't want to pay for it, so they start to cut corners on safety, on hygiene, on security, on nutrition, on food, and then the next thing you know, here we are, right? You need to be really careful. Freemason is the atheist. Well, Freemasonry is not a cult at all. Um, I think everybody agrees on what Freemasonry is, at least if you're a Freemason, which is a club or a group. Now, some will also describe it as a philosophy, some will also describe it as a um, way of life, some will describe it in spiritual terms, but at its core, it's a club, right? And I think it's important you remember the nature of these clubs. Well, I don't know what ChatGPT is. ChatGPT is wrong. It's not a cult, um, right? For a variety of reasons, but the main reason being cults try to isolate the individuals from their groups, or a cult will try to isolate the individual member from friends, family, anyone outside of the cult itself. It's an isolation effort. Freemasonry does not try to isolate any of its members. In fact, it encourages its members to put its family and its friends, or his family and his friends and his work and his religious, duties above Freemasonry, for better or worse. Also, Freemasonry does not venerate any individual. So, I mean, you got to be really careful. I agree with that, Trey. A lot of people will tell me ChatGPT says this about Freemasonry. Grok says this about Freemasonry. Chatbots can be incorrect, right? AI can be incorrect. Just because it says something does not mean it's necessarily the case. So it's I mean, even I will use like AI and chatbots to check on something and do some quick research. But you got to be so careful about that. How much of that you need to trust but verify, right? Trust but verify is key. I think human interaction is very often healthier, and I think Freemasonry provides that human interaction, which is such a valuable thing and such an important thing within, that we're losing and we're missing. It's why I think so many people report they'd be happier to live at a time in the past than in the present, because that was a time when you had, for example, much more human to human interaction. So joining Freemasonry is not a lottery between self-improvement and satanic cannibalism. Joining Freemasonry doesn't even guarantee self-improvement. What joining Freemasonry does is give you the opportunity for self-improvement. It's no different than joining a gym. Becoming a member of a gym, joining a gym, does not give you is not a guarantee that you will become healthy. You will become healthy and fit to the extent that you take advantage of the membership by going to the gym and showing up. So you need to keep that in mind as well. Um, this idea that Freemasonry automatically equals self-improvement or automatically equals community improvement or automatically equals anything else. Nothing about a Masonic membership equals automatic anything. It's just like becoming a gym member does not automatically equate with, healthy or being healthy, right? That's not how these things work. So you need to keep that in mind. Freemasonry ultimately, or being a member, provides you an opportunity for those things, but it's up to you to take advantage of them. Gemini made a third grade math problem mistake after, I think that's what you mean, and after pointing it out, it deflected. I mean, AI is made by humans. Humans make mistakes, so AI will make mistakes as well, right? How does the money work? So, DB, every lodge will decide that for themselves. As a general rule, it's yearly dues. In almost every lodge I've been to or I'm a member of, you pay once a year. But some lodges may accept monthly payments as well, right? Some lodges may accept monthly payments instead of yearly payments. Or sometimes brethren may be struggling financially and may choose to or ask to pay monthly instead of yearly. So, how much is it usually? It depends. I mean, I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges. The cheapest lodge I'm a member of is $25 a year, 25 American. The most expensive is $250 a year. I would say on average in North America, dues are about $200 per year. So it really depends because technically lodges are meant to be self-funded or self-financed. What that means is the more expensive it is for a lodge to operate, the higher the dues are going to be. So if you're a Masonic lodge that meets in a building in New York City, let's say Manhattan, your dues are probably going to be really, really high because that's going to be really expensive rent or really expensive property to meet in, to own. If you're in small town Texas, where everything is really inexpensive because there's not a lot of demand, maybe your dues are not that high because your building expenses and other expenses are not going to be that high. It just depends. Um, and then, your dues don't just go to cover the cost of your buildings, but your dues go to cover the cost of food. Your dues go to cover the cost of Grand Lodge fees, whatever else it might be. The most out there lodge I've visited? That's a really good question. So, Shrey, the most out there lodge that I'm a member of, I'm going to be very literal, is Tranquility Lodge 2000. It's so out there, it's on the moon. If you know, you know. It's named after Sea of Tranquility, where the lunar module landed. It's a really cool story. They meet in Texas with the hope one day of meeting on the moon because Buzz Aldrin was a member of Texas Freemasons and he brought with him a Masonic charter to the moon. So he claimed the moon for Texas Freemasons. But I've never actually visited a meeting of Tranquility Lodge. I'm an affiliate member and proud of it, but I've never actually visited. I mean, in terms of furthest distance from my house, that would be the Philippines. I visited lodges there, and that was the furthest distance from my home. I'm trying to think how else you would define out there. Um, like if you were to define out there as, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to say Tranquility Lodge member and the Philippines for distance. I mean, Rio and Colombia were absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful buildings. I look back on those buildings and just am amazed at how beautiful they were. The ceiling, the roof was unbelievable. It was done up just like the heavens. It was beyond gorgeous. Um, so I guess that's what I would say is I'm gonna have to go with either Tranquility, Philippines, or Colombia. Each one out there in different ways. So there are no missionary Freemasons because missionary to me implies religious connotations, and Freemasonry is not a religion. Nobody was no Mason would go to set up a lodge with the purpose of converting others. But if you're a Freemason and let's say you like back in the day, it was very common, you're a Freemason who's a businessman, for example, you're a trader. You jump on a boat from England, you sail to India to set up, your shop as a trader, as a businessman. If enough Masons join you and also to set up shop or to set up a colony, then you may form a Masonic lodge there, and then you end up bringing in others who are interested in Freemasonry as well. It was also possible for Masons to travel to a new jurisdiction to make sure things are being done correctly. So every Shriner is a Mason, but not every Mason is a Shriner, right? To be a Shriner, you must first be a Freemason. A Shriner is just an independent body of Freemasonry. It's a body of Freemasonry that's primarily concerned with charity and with charitable acts. Is there a degree where you get, I don't know what that means, paid? There is not. But I do think we in Freemasonry need to turn our passion into profession. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. So please subscribe, please like, please do a super chat. Yeah, well, I mean, it was very common back in the day for both English and Scottish lodges to be chartered, is the term, outside of the country, because Freemasonry started there, right? But in some cases, if the enough Masons joined, enough lodges formed, eventually they would split out, and instead of being part of the Scottish jurisdiction or UGLE, they would create their own jurisdiction, like we did in Canada and Ontario and the different provinces. But if it's still relatively small and there's not enough Masons, it may just maintain its original jurisdiction under United Grand Lodge of England. Like Kenya, for example, is the same way. So. We're going to give it another, let's say, 10 minutes or so. I'm going to be ending this stream early because I am here in London. A friend of mine was nice enough to give me the space to do this, but I don't want to take it up for too long. But pay attention tomorrow to my stream. I'm going to be posting all about my medical appointments. They're really interesting. I'm kind of fascinated by them. So I'm not saying everybody has to, look at donating their kidney, but if you want to learn more about the process, check me out tomorrow. It's really fascinating, all the different tests you got to go through. I assure you, they're not just taking out kidneys willy-nilly. They're actually really focusing on and looking at making sure that the process is as safe as it can be for everybody. Um, it's not true. I mean, the Illuminati doesn't really exist anymore in any meaningful way. There's separate organizations, there's separate groups. The Shrine is part of the Masonic family, the Illuminati is not. So consider yourself, I was actually curious about that, and I was looking that up because of President Trump making a bunch of remarks about annexing Greenland. To my understanding, there is no Masonic lodge in Greenland, at least none that I could find. So, we're going to give this another. All right. We're going to end this stream now. However, I will be back on. I'm going to try to come back on tonight around 1 a.m. quickly to say hello and follow me tomorrow on my different streams where I'll be talking more about my kidney donation. Michael Moore, I don't know if you're free Wednesday morning, but I have my installation at Border Cities Lodge at 554. If you can make it, I'd be honored and would be grateful. So thank you so much for being here. It's Wednesday, it's 11 a.m. And I am hoping to get back to the Detroit Masonic Temple as soon as I can. So I will let you know when I can do that as well. Barry Pulaski, I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well also. But that's Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And Michael Moore, how was the festive board? Did you attend it? Or no, you were in Dahlonega, which I always think of, Denaliga, which I always think of that Ashley McBride song, A Little Dive Bar in Dahlonega, which is a great song. How was the trip? How was Georgia? Dahlonega, that's it. How was Dahlonega? How was Georgia? I hope you enjoyed the song I sent you. It's one of my favorite songs. I love it. I think it's awesome. Nice. I would love to. I've been to Georgia a couple times, but never actually visited a lodge there. So you're beating me to the punch. I got to get there to visit a lodge. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Nice. Brother Michael Moore killing it on the dance floor. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Thank you all so much for being here. I got to run because I'm boring somebody's very awesome conference room, but I don't want to take it up too much longer. Have a great night, and I'm glad you had a fun Master Mason degree. All right, see you guys later.